Good morning. It's July 10. It's Thursday. Yes, it is. I've just given you 1 full minute of Epidemic Sound Instrumental. It's our favorite music instrumental without copyright. So we're capable of using it as our background without infringing on, the copyright privileges of the musicians, electronic or otherwise. Well, I've been busy at work here, studying up on the most recent Yeah, I know this. The ever-reaching knowledge base that we have today. You can learn all kinds of things. I'm interested in the increase in the range that this battery technology can help with our electronic vehicles. So that maybe this is I'm finishing up on my first cup of coffee here. I've been busy at work. I've been very busy this morning. I cut up 3 large yellow onions. I sauteed them in, I have olive oil. I sauteed chopped up garlic. Got that nice and golden brown, slurry. And then I stirred in, I would say, 3 cups. 3 cups of chopped onions. Yeah. I would say that's right. Yeah. Maybe 4 cups. It was a lot of chopped onions. I mean, it was if you had handfuls, it was a solid 2 handfuls of onions. And, stirred them all up and got them translucent. Then I added all my Italian and aromatic seasonings. I'm making a tomato sauce because I also cooked up 2 pounds of thin spaghetti and 1 pound of, let's see, I guess it's like a sausage ravioli kind of thing. They're like little packets of sausage with special, cheesy kind of sauce inside. They're actually quite marvelous. I'm not doing them justice. Marilyn picked them out. We've had them before. It's fresh pasta, not dried pasta. You can buy them, and you have to cook them up in about a couple of weeks after you buy the bag. The bag I had, fresh bag, sealed, refrigerated, was good. You had to use or freeze by 7/21. So we're 11 days early before it hit I wouldn't call it an expiration, but a couple of days after that, or 3 or 4 days after that, it would have started to turn. So they're all cooked up. We don't have to worry about that. And 5 cups of rapidly boiling water with a little seasoning in it and a little olive oil. You dump the raviolis in there, and they cook up in about 4 minutes. It's pretty quick. The water is really hot. I had about, I would say, 4 inches of room from the top of the pot, so I put a lid on it. because they float, and if I put a lid on it, then the steam gets trapped in the pot. It's a 6-quart pot. Pasta pot. Any kind of pot, big pot. Silicone pot with a non-stick surface. And anyway, they cook up real good. So I was boiling all kinds of stuff, starting at about 6 o'clock this morning. And while the pasta was cooking, put them on the side. And then when all the pasta cooking was done, packaged them up in these 3-cup transparent containers that I use over and over and over again. Rubbermaid, but they're transparent like glass instead of being translucent. They're totally clear. They're a little annoying to clean, and they have all these little edges and things you gotta get to. There are 6 or 7 secret agents that have been suspended because of the terrible incident at Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th, where Trump actually got shot in the ear. Oh my God. With a NATO round, 7.62 projectile, traveling at about 3,000 feet per second. If you've ever seen that round hit a gallon jug of water, when it hits the jug of water, it explodes it. So the last thing we want to have is the head of our president exploding on national television, much less anything else. Oh my God. Yeah, that was crazy. Anyway, so a number of Secret Service agents have been suspended while the investigation is completed, and they'll probably, of course, they don't want them out in the field, God. So that news hit yesterday, actually. Oh, boy. So I'll just... Brazil has been hit with a 50% tariff because of the high import duties assessed people that are trying to access the Brazilian population. This trade stuff back and forth. Most of the countries, have entered into tariff reciprocity with the U.S., which basically brings the tariffs down, like to 10 or 15% on both sides. Some of these countries, including ourselves, don't want to give up, the tariff situation, because it's income. Tends to help finance their government. So if the tariffs disappear, all of a sudden, where are those billions of dollars? We don't want to tax our people. We'd rather have someone else pay that. Anyway, but since we have not been collecting a lot of tariffs, now that, we have a president in there that's looking out after ourselves instead of being this global mashed potato, now we're, manning up and, kind of looking out for ourselves. Getting involved in world friendships and so forth, but, God darn it, we need to look after what's good for the United States for a change. Yeah. I have just found my my pair of AirPods. Oh, there it is, AirPods Pro. You see it? You open it up and it says, "Oh, do you want to pair with me?" Let's close that up. No, not exactly. Go away. We'll take care of that later. It came up on this screen too. Yeah, I don't know what we'll connect that to. You know, I've changed. Things are so complicated anymore. I haven't focused on our equipment. I suggest all of you are probably as delinquent as I am. You know, you just get this Xfinity equipment, you get it running, and then you watch television, and 7 years later, you have old equipment. And there's all kinds of technology that's come out since. And you're running on stuff that is like ancient history, you know, in the world of high technology. 7 years is like 3 life cycles. So, upgrade. Get a hold of, it's not easy, you know, you have to go through this robotic crap, but, you know, because no one wants to talk to a human being. No one wants to let you talk to a human being. And if you do finally get to a human being, they're probably in the Philippines. The Filipinos are pretty smart folks, boys and girls. Anyway, so I have upgraded. I've gotten brand new boxes for all our equipment. You know, we have all these big screen TV. We have 3 large screens from 45 inches, 65 inches, and 85 inches. 45 inches in the guest room, 65 inches in the bedroom, and 85 inches in the living room. 2 of them are, let's see, they're Samsung TVs. They're absolutely spectacular. I mean, we just went to the movies to see a movie in a movie theater, and guess what? I'd rather watch the movies at home, quite frankly, because when you can sit on your own couch and you're 14 feet from the screen, the back of the couch to the front of the Samsung TV is 14 feet. The rule of thumb is you take the diagonal measure of your TV, which is 85 inches, for example, and multiply that by 2. So the math is quite simple. Let's just do it. 85 times 2 equals 170. Divide that by 12, so we get feet. Look at that, 14 feet. Well, the back of our couch to the front of the Samsung TV, the wall that it's hanging on, you know, it's only 1.5 inches thick. The big is the 200-pound TV that's 1.5 inches thick, but it's, you know, 7 feet in diagonal measure. And about 4 feet this way, 7 feet this way. You know, 6.5 feet this way. It fits beautifully on the wall. You know, I have it up, elevated pretty good. Marilyn's got a 5-foot half of a baker's rack, whatever you call that thing. I have one of them behind the couch too, with a bunch of plants on it. But anyway, underneath the TV, then, and it still doesn't interrupt the view of the screen. So that way the whole wall is full of things. But the TV is really quite spectacular. If you don't want to watch television, you can go to YouTube let's do it. YouTube. Y-O-U-T-U-B-D. Oops, where's the Y? YouTube. Aquarium. ACQ. Gosh darn it. Get over here. There we go. Let's just... and you'll see these beautiful displays of... there we go. Aquarium in 4K UHD. Ultra high definition. We'll press this one. You see that right there? So you can have an 85-inch aquarium. And it has... it can include sound. So you hear little bubblies. But that's a saltwater aquarium with those beautiful fish. It has an 11-hour live streaming signal so that you won't get bored. But look how beautiful that is. Producer, put that on full screen. Yeah, look at that. And it is lifelike while those fish, are inside of their habitats. So, look at that. I mean, to have an aquarium like this would be, it probably cost you, $15,000 for an aquarium that, it had to be really big. And it's salt water, so you'd have to have special stuff on that. I had a big aquarium when we lived at Old Foresta. And it was, it was fun and nice and attractive, and but it's a lot of work. It's easier to grow plants. So I've turned the aquarium business over to YouTube, and you can get all kinds of let's see, let's do that again. Yeah, I mean, so here's oh, look at that. That's a little, let's go full screen on that one. That's a seahorse. That would be very difficult. Those are very sensitive guys. If you can buy one, which would probably cost you $25, the chance of it surviving in your saltwater aquarium is, it'll probably live for like 3 or 4 days, and it'll eventually just, because the salinization level is very sensitive in case you don't have the right specific gravity. There's little tubes you have to buy, which you suspend in the water in your aquarium. It's like, let's see if I can get in here. It's like about this big, about the half. It looks just about like this, the green part of this pen. And it floats. And then there's a little scale on here. And, you have all kinds of aeration going on because the salt water has to have the right oxygen level also. And it's a complicated biochemistry, ecosphere kind of thing, to keep all these things alive in there and thriving. Then you have to have sunlight, so you have to have an artificial, light in the top, And that has to be sealed up so the light doesn't escape, around the edges, or else then it looks ugly. Because you want all the light in the aquarium. Anyway, so YouTube, so you can do things with the big screen. And if you don't want to do that, let's get back to see if we can get back to YouTube. Let's go back to our search. This is welcome to Jim Wilson. Let's get out of here. YouTube. Let's do YouTube fireplace. Now this is really quite exciting too. Here's a 10-hour broadcast. The best burning fireplaces. Cozy crackling logs. Here's a 4K. That is the resolution of the image. That's what you want with your big screen. By the way, 4K. Not 2K, you want 4K. And we can go full screen on that. And we'll go full screen on here. Now look at that. Is that like, you can't hear the crackling because my big mouth is... But anyway, there's a variety of different fireplaces you can have. You can have oak burning fireplaces, but can you just feel the warmth? This is amazing. Well, I'm transmitting this on our live streaming Simulcast. That's on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and Twitter Live. And everybody is still with me. No one has dropped out. Our internet signal is strong. And I can join in on the conversation now. There we are. I'm over on the right side here. As you can see, I can go full screen on me, which you can see, half of me. Because the camera's over here and I'm over here, Most people are more interested in listening to me than seeing me. So you can see my hands, as I'm in. It's a little tiny studio here. It's 6 foot wide by 24 inches deep, and it goes back about 4 feet behind me, where I have a nice, beautiful, brother combination. It's a beautiful color printer, spectacular 4-color. You can print, photographs and all kinds of nice things on it. It's a color copier and a printer. If I had a landline in here, it would be a fax machine, and a scanner. I can put a 36-page thing in there and push a button, and it'll scan it and create PDF files for sending to whoever might want it. Okay, so anyway, so that's that's what you can do with. So how about that? YouTube. You can get YouTube. It's easy to search. I showed you how to do it. All you have to do is type YouTube and a space, and then type fireplace. And then you get a whole menu of all different kinds of fireplaces with oak burning logs, and you hear the crackling. You have some pine wood in there, so you hear the sap popping and burning, and your little sparks fly. It's really it's marvelous. Or you can do the aquarium, which you can have your TV on during the day or in the early evening, and when you're walking around in your living room and sitting around reading your iPad, You can have the aquarium going, or the fireplace going in the late evening. You don't always have to have it with a stupid television channel. I mean, sooner or later you get tired of the news. I'm a newsaholic, but after, Marilyn gets home from work, we'll watch, The Five on Fox News, channel 428 on, Xfinity. Circling back to Xfinity, so I was upgrading all the equipment. That took... I don't like to have these technicians come in and, digging through stuff and, if they can do it, I can do it. That's what I figure. They're not... I'm as smart as they are, or they're as smart as I am. So it's just a matter of learning. So that's what I do. I learned how to do it. I read how to do it. It's easy to do. It actually comes with a little card that shows you screw this in here and you screw that in there, and it's not that complicated. You're just taking out old equipment, putting in new equipment. Now that's the easy part. The hard part is then, like with the modem. Now that modem guy controls, that's like the heart. So you screw your cable into the modem, and the modem then separates the television signal from the internet signal. It's two different kinds of signals that are both coming through that cable. So there's a lot going on in the cable. So what the modem does, and it's a modem and a router, it separates the TV signal, which is then converted into, comes out of a female socket called an HDMI plug. So you have an HDMI cable that goes from the router up into the back of your flat screen TV. And that gives you the audio signal, the video signal, in 4K, which is the resolution. And, that gives you a screen that is 3.2 million pixels that refresh about 60 frames a second. So it's like jitter-free. When you watch a golf channel, for example, when the guy is swinging his golf club, there's no flickering as the golf swing, and you watch the ball fly. You don't see the ball skipping in the air. It is a nice smooth flight. Football, all the players are just, with these flat screens and the TV signals are so sharp nowadays. The best seat in the house, is on your couch, and you have ESPN, broadcasters with all their equipment, or, the big networks with all their equipment. They have cameras everywhere, and they watch the flight of the ball, and they have cameras in this end zone and that end zone, and the video signals are, true and sharp and high resolution. 20 years ago, TV was, it was something to see, but it was not the same as being there. Now, it's still not the same as being there, but the quality is so fantastic, and the images that are created by these network broadcasters, they're using, this 4K equipment, and the equipment is transmitting now with the cable companies at 4K, So unless you live, in the hills of West Virginia, somewhere where they don't have such signal, which is not true, it's pretty much available everywhere. It's, watching sporting events, watching news events, any kind of watching on the television nowadays is, so incredible compared to how television started in the 50s. I mean, my parents bought the first color television in our neighborhood, would you believe it? All the kids used to come over and, sit around our TV watching Bonanza, which is on, Sunday at 6 o'clock or something or other. And they had the color broadcast. NBC was the first to have color TV on I think, Channel 4. If I had to guess. Yeah, Channel 2, Channel 4, 5, 9. It was, I think, Channel 4. NBC News, New York. And I think in the evening on Sunday, they had Bonanza. With Haas. You remember Haas? Big Haas. You had all the, characters of Bonanza. That was the first color broadcast in the United States, if I recall. And that was like 1956, somewhere around in there, in the mid-early 50s. We had this color TV, and it was like 23-inch diagonal tube. It wasn't 16 by 9. It was 4:3 aspect ratio. And the resolution was terrible on that color TV tube, and that sucker ran hot. You could toast bread on the back end of that TV. I went down to Canal Street and got a 2 muffin. I asked my father. I said, if you don't mind, we're having service techs here like every week because the set is running so hot. The electronics behind what's going on with this color TV is running so hot they're burning themselves out. I mean, not really on fire, but they're overheating, and their life expectancy is being shortened. So if I put a couple of muffin fans in there, which will help to heat up the living room, but it will keep the TV cool. I'll have one going in and one going out. I'll put on either side of the back. It'll run off, 120 volts, so we won't need any special voltage. I'll do it myself. If you don't mind, I just want to let you know I'm going to be cutting into the back of your color TV. But the service techs, you won't see them here as often. I said, just can you bear with me and let me do that? And my mother nodded her head over at Bill. Bill Wilson was my father's name. William Henry Wilson. And my mother looked over to Bill and said, let Jimmy do that. So when he went to work one day, I did it. So I wouldn't have any kibitzing. I didn't want him breathing over my back while I'm cutting into the back end of his TV. That cost like $3,000 or something. In $1950, that was a big expense. That was probably like a $10,000 TV in today's, so expensive, But it was like the first color TV ever manufactured, by the RCA company. And we all sat around and watched Bonanza. That was the only color program, for a year or two. And the only other thing you used to watch in color was the commercials. So you'd watch a black and white, TV program, like, what was there was a couple of TV programs that I used to watch all the time. Gosh darn it. And the TV program would be black and white. And then we'd go to commercial, you'd have this beautiful color commercial. So you had a lot of color commercials with all the black and white programming until those programs, like I Love Lucy, trying to think of some of them. Oh boy. And then when they'd cut the commercial would be in color. Just about every one of the commercials were in color. And the TV would automatically recognize the different signals, but the only color show was Bonanza for quite a while, like a year. And then, the other programs were, struggling to, buy the equipment and get the people trained on the equipment. And then they would have to transmit the signal in color, to the network. It was, back in the early days, it was a learning curve, put it that way. So that's how the early days of television. Now today, you got flat screen TVs. You don't have these big vacuum tubes. They don't run, as hot. Although I have the TV, I have that air duct, the air conditioning duct in the living room. I have half of the vents angled over towards the back end of the TV and down a little bit. So I'm throwing look at that in my package here. Let's shoot the air conditioner. Yeah, the air is coming out at 56.7 degrees, as you can see there. So I have 57 degree air going right down the wall behind the color TV, just the flat screen, just to give it a nice little cool breeze. Because that's, that cost a couple $1,000 and $200 to hang it on the wall. And I had the wires all set for them. And it plugged right in, turned right on. There you go. Perfecto. I got it from Best Buy. It was like $1,800 and change, maybe $1,850. You had the sales tax. It was like just about $2,000 exactly. And I had the Geek Squad, or whatever Best Buy had lined up. They delivered the thing. It's big, 85 inches. So it's like 95 inches in the box. So you have an 8-foot box by 5.5-foot box, by about 8 inches deep. So it's a 2-person to carry the damn thing into our 8th level apartment here. It was a trick. And then they take the TV out of this box and, sir, what would you like us to do with the box? I said, take it with you. I have no place for a box. I don't have a garage, and my storage unit on the 3rd level is full of things. And I don't have room for an 85-inch box. Anyway, they installed it. Took a couple hours. And I had the wires all set. So they just had to get it up there and get the, they had levels to make sure, it's not crooked on the wall. After it was installed, they put a level on there because they don't want me calling back and say, hey, this thing is cockeyed. So come out and straighten it out. So they make sure, and then they say, sir, is it exactly to your liking? Sit down on your couch and take a look. Make sure it's not crooked. I said, I'm showing you a picture of the level I have right on the top edge of this big, beautiful Samsung TV. And congratulations, sir, you bought the right model. You know, the Series 8000 is exactly where you want to be. I've installed a lot of these TVs, and the earlier models don't match up to the 8000 model. I said, well, good, thank you. Now, if you're done, get out of here. All right, we've got YouTube over there. Can you believe it? I can pull that up and look at that. We'll just get him out of the way because Mr. Trump, he's waving his finger at us. He's actually waving his finger at Brazil because they have not been cooperating with the big New Deal with Mr. Trump, looking out for our interests. So he has written him a letter and said, you are going to be experiencing a 50% tariff rate on all of your exports into the United States because that's what you're charging us. That's what we're going to charge you. So stick that in your ear. That's what he's doing there. He's waving his finger at Brazil. Yep. And yeah, it is. In case you forgot, it's July 10th. It's Thursday. And yesterday we had our cleaning people in here, and they were making everything nice and snazzy and clean. Thank you very much. And the stock market futures are slipping and sliding in because apparently we get a lot of copper imports from Brazil, the mineral. So that's throwing some of the technology companies through a loop because where are they going to get their copper from? There are other places to get copper. I think, we're getting some of our minerals from the Ukraine. We just signed a deal with Ukraine. Hopefully that'll get the Russians out of their hair. But they're still bombing them, you know. I mean, like Putin is... He needs to... I'm afraid that Trump is going to finally put his foot down, and it's not going to be pretty for Mr. Putin. But, you could end up, being in, get yourself in a world war, which we don't want that either, because, they're bombing Ukraine, all of a sudden we're bombing Moscow, they may start bombing us. And until we get our golden dome in place, although I think we have a pretty decent set of defenses without the golden dome, I think we have these, it's hard to imagine that they have these laser cannons on destroyers and on our aircraft carriers. But we don't have these laser cannons, positioned on the White House roof, for example. So someone started, you watch some of these movies where these planes come out of nowhere and attack the White House, which is where our president lives during the week. So I would imagine those 500,000 watt laser cannons, they're all computer guided. They're watching the skies. There's radar in the White House. There's radar all around that feeds into the White House. You don't have to have the rotating radar thingy on the roof of the White House. That can be on the grounds at, the Washington National Airport. And then the White House can get the signal and use part of the signal that covers the White House, because those radars that are at the airport, they shoot out about 100 miles, 150 miles, and they rotate around. So they cover a 150-mile circle and there's circles all up and down the eastern seaboard and all over the country, actually, because you got airports in major cities all over the country. And, Philadelphia Airport, they have their radars, and, our military network that handles a lot of those radar signals. The SAC command base, 700 feet underneath Tampa. Yeah, there's a big SAC command base there. Highly sensitive. A friend of mine's son is in the TV business. He works on all these really big screens. These 10-foot screens that they have in the military and in the Situation Room of the White House. And so someone has to service these screens in case they, have some dead pixels or whatever. So my friend told me that his son was summoned to the SAC command base in Tampa to repair a couple of the big screens they have. So they have this big room that's underground, deep underground, very deep. And they have this, it's got this room that's, with a 16-foot ceiling. And they have all this computer equipment and all these technicians, monitoring all these different radar screens and this and that. And they had these big screens all around this oval-shaped big room that's, like 60 feet by 40 feet, with a 16-foot ceiling. And you get all these big screens all the way around. And you look up and there's a guy, and this is all camera equipment that's shooting down from 44,000 miles up, and you can see somebody reading a newspaper. And you can tell whether the guy shaved or not that morning. I mean, the quality of the imaging is like scary amazing. So that's what I'm telling you about these screens. Anyway, so I had to deal with Xfinity for almost all of Sunday afternoon. Forget it trying to get them on the weekday. So on the weekend you have a half a shot. And you got to get a hold of tech support because they have to provision the modem, they have to activate the modem. There's no way of doing that on my computer screen. I have to actually talk to somebody, which is painful because it takes you a half hour to get to talk to somebody and they verify who you are and to make sure you're this and make sure you're not, because they don't want the technology people dealing with billing questions, and all that. So you have to go through all these menus of these robotics that they have on the telephone, because you can't get someone on the phone, a person. You got to go through all this stuff, and you have to verify your account, and then they send you a thing on your phone, and you give them the number, and they verify that, oh yeah, you're Jimmy. We're just making sure you're Jimmy. Oh, yuck. And God forbid the phone disconnects, and you got to go through that shit again. Oops, that's something again. What really makes me mad is they gave me a phone number. Sir, if you write down this phone number, I said, is there a phone number I can get like you guys directly without having to go through all these freaking menus? Because if we get disconnected, well, we'll call you, sir. I know, but if my phone may go to a recorder because we don't know your number that you'd be calling from, and if you're not in my phone book, it goes automatically to my call center, because I don't want to talk to, all these people that are trying to sell me stuff. So I'm doing exactly what you're doing. I just don't have robotics answering your questions. you're trying to help me. So is there a number I can just call you back in case we get disconnected? Because I'm speaking on a cell phone, and God forbid that, we get disconnected. So they give me a number. Well, I called it back the next day, doesn't work. As soon as it rings in, it hangs up. So I don't know, what's going on with that number. I've saved it here. I got it in my address book, in my contacts. Yeah, I've got like 24, and one of them is Xfinity, with a variety of their phone numbers they keep giving me. Anyway, I went through that. And we'll call you back in a few hours to see how your modem is, So every few minutes, I'll show you what I do, is I go to my app called Speed Test from Ookla. Ookla, Ookla, I believe. It's the best, there we go. It's green, pulsating. It tells me it's connected to the internet. Thank you very much. If it wasn't, you wouldn't hear me. And you're watching the speed test live on your screen right there. 350, 400 megabits per second download speed, which is fast, sort of fast. It's not as fast as I'm paying for. And here's the upload speed, which is what I need to do the podcast. I need at least 10 megabits per second, and it's peaking out at 66 megabits per second. So that's all right. We'll give them a score of 3 out of 10. And see, AT&T Fiber is 363. Your speed is 349. Xfinity is 289. Well, I'm at 349. And so my upload speed is 66. So I'm higher than the average that Xfinity usually delivers, because I got the fastest, super fast speed you can get. I got as fast as you can get as a residential customer. And I'm not going to pay $300 a month for the commercial fast speed, which, I'm supposed to get 2 megabits per second. What am I at, 300? I'm at 363. It's supposed to be 2 gigabits per second. That's 2,000 megabits per second. I'm getting 360, to give you an idea of, they advertise these numbers. Let's do the speed test again. So now we're redoing it. And there it goes. The ping is 24 milliseconds, which is going to give me this 350 megabits per second download speed, which is what you use when you go to the internet and search for things, and when you're on Amazon and all that stuff. The amount of upload speed is minimal because you're just answering questions. Do you want to see this? Do you want to see that? And then when you finally make your choice, the download speed is what, gives you your video content and your pictures and so forth. When you're a content creator, like I'm doing here with this podcast, I need 10 megabits per second up. And I've got 66, so I've got plenty to run the show, so that's what I'm focused on. Your AirPod case will never run out of battery again, thanks to these new charging reminders. Yeah, your AirPod's battery is low. I've got it plugged right in here. This is an old one that's using the FireWire. I don't have many FireWires left. You can see the orange light, which means it's, one of those things are at 93% charged. Remember, I opened the case and it popped up on the screen. Let's do it again. All right, everybody. Look at that. I'm 92% on the battery in the case. The earpods themselves are at 100%. And I got two screens here inviting me to connect with these two different iPads. We're coming to the day now. iPhone has been opening and closing, open, close. They have machines that do nothing but open, close to make sure that this seam doesn't break, or that the seam, you don't lose pixels. Because if you have a 6.9-inch diagonal screen and you open it up like this, you have like an 8.5-inch iPad. And then it looks, look how that looks. That's going to be your iPhone. So you close it up, and we'll have to figure out what the back looks like. Now, they're almost ready for next year. We're not getting it this year. So Samsung has had them out for a few years now. But Apple is very slow. They are so, their technology, smart and all that. But they test and retest, and oh my God, it's amazing what they go through. So, you got 48 million pixel cameras. Oh boy. OLED screens, apparently, which is, organic. Whatever that means. Organic light emitting diode. I'm speed reading backwards here. Anyway, that's the hinge design is very tricky. They're getting the supply chain in order, because they have to make sure there are several companies that can manufacture the screens with adequate production volume. When you produce screens like this, they test the screens, and all the pixels and all the colors have to illuminate evenly and properly. And if it's properly but not even, it gets disqualified. And it's got computers that do all the testing, And if you don't get a high enough test results from the manufacturing process, then the unit cost for the ones that do qualify, you got to add back in the ones that don't qualify, because they're using up materials to build the ones that didn't work right. Well, that adds into your cost, because the company says, hey, we're going to build them as, because you got high standards doesn't mean, I don't know, there are complicated contracts there between the companies. But that's what's involved when you're buying millions and millions of these screens. You have to make sure the product, the piece, because this is like a piece. The screen is a single component. You got all kinds of other stuff. You got the battery. You got the processing chips. You got the cameras, the video cameras, the still cameras. There's a lot of the miniaturization, the microprocessing of this stuff is so spectacular. It's actually mind-boggling. The computer part of the whole iPhone, and this iPad here, it's 90% screen and battery. And the computer chip is probably what's above my finger and thinner than that. This is a napkin, right? I got my finger right. That is the size of all of the electronics of the entire iPad, and it's sitting like right here in the iPad behind the screen, and between these two big batteries that are hooked in parallel, that are giving me the 5.5 volt circuitry that powers the screen and everything. And you got plugs and sockets. You got 3 little dots in the back that connect to this magic keyboard that is an illuminated screen. I can also, with the keyboard, you can. I keep forgetting this, but I can brighten up the screen or lower the brightness of the screen. Now, when it's the screen intensity that's coming out of this wire that's circling around behind here and getting into my MacBook Pro, the screen brightness does not get altered, because I can turn this screen all the way down, and the screen that you're looking at over there on the left part of your screen is not changing in intensity. That has a constant, pretty much a constant intensity. But the one I'm looking at, I can change its volume. And but anyway, so there's a story about the folding phone that should be available next year. I was hoping there were early reports that it might be available this year, but they got 2 different kinds they're working on. One where the iPhone Pro Max 17 or 18 will open up and you get this big screen. Otherwise, you have a little part. There's a little segment of the back of the phone, which will show you the time and the date and how many messages you got and so forth. It'll be on the back of the phone where the cameras are. So as soon as you open it up, everything is, available to your view, like you're looking at your iPad, like I'm looking at right now. I mean, I can go right here and I can, there's my, this is my open link. I just sent them, I sent, all my personal friends, both of them. This is actually a link with about, I call it Wilson's group, people that I know well. And you want to watch the live simulcast, you can press this little doodad here, and this gives you a link right to, see there, July 8th. It was, I didn't broadcast yesterday because I had the cleaning people in, and I was running around behind them, not necessarily making them clean better, but I'm picking up stuff to help them out so they can do better at what they do. And, I get all the, get all the boxes together and all the stuff that they come in every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, on Tuesday, I put a lot of things together Tuesday night. And, Wednesday, they come in around 11 o'clock in the morning. So if I can get a broadcast out on Wednesday, I got to get it out like from 8 to 10. Because at 10, I got to get off the air because those suckers are knocking on the door at 10:45. They drive from West Palm to here. I pay them $140 every 2 weeks. And they spend a couple hours in my unit and clean it up real good. So, in Maryland, that hotel is sold out. We're trying to go. She's got a gathering. It's like a dinner at 8 o'clock, someplace up in Jupiter. So she wanted to know if I would drive her up there. And I said, well, get a hotel up there, and then it's Saturday night. So I said, hey, I'll drive you up. It's an hour. So this way you don't get all tired out. And I'll put the thing on autopilot. This car drives itself. You just put in the address of where you want to go, and it'll take you right to the front door. I mean, the Tesla car it's supervised, so you got to, you keep your hands on the wheel, and you don't want to, you can't text message and crap while you're driving, because it'll shut down. It watches you. It does, actually. There's an inboard camera in the thing, and when it says supervised, it wants you to post proper watch out the windshield. And if you close your eyes like you're sleeping, it'll start making noises in the car to wake your ass up and keep you. It says you must, and it talks to you. It says, you must pay attention to the driving, or else we're going to disconnect. If we do this 5 times, then we'll shut you off. You won't be able to use the service. So they get cranky when you don't pay attention. But if you do pay attention, the nice thing about the autopilot is that when you're driving up I-95 or whatever, you got your white line. The car will be right between the 2 white lines. It'll be within an inch of exactly right in the middle. And if another car, like encroaches on your lane, it'll move you over a little bit so you won't connect with the car, known as a car accident. So it has accident avoidance. It'll slow down, speed up, it'll slide over, it'll move away from you if you start moving towards it. So that's I've got all kinds of videos of how that works. I don't want to try it out. So it won't let you drive into somebody. The steering wheel will actually, you can feel it. It'll pull, away. It wants to stay in the middle of the road. So if you start to pull it, you want to change lanes, just hit your left or your right signal, and it'll, your blinker. So if you want to get in the faster lane, then just put your left signal on. It'll find a convenient time to get over in the next lane to the left. It'll fit you right in the traffic, and if you want to pass the car in front of you, it gets the joke, because it wants to go within 5% of the speed limit. And if someone is slow in front of you, it'll pass the car in front of you. It'll go on all by itself. It'll find, it'll fit within the traffic in the left lane that you're trying to get into. It'll get around the car that's slow in front of you, and then pass it, and then get back in the lane, in the middle lane. It's all automated. I mean, it's a thing to behold, and it drives like a person. It's not nervous and jerky. It used to be terrible. It started out terrible, and now it's, of course, 7 years later, it's not so terrible. There was a lawsuit just won by somebody. It went to arbitration, and the judge ruled in the favor of the plaintiff, and the plaintiff was a customer who paid $10,000 for in cash with the car. So he bought an $80,000 car, which had $10,000 of the software in the price, and the software hasn't worked. Because even today, it's a beta test. They call it supervised, and until it's unsupervised, where you can just put the address in, sit back and read a story or take a nap, full self-driving, gives you the idea that you should be able to, turn over to the person next to you and have a conversation rather than watching the highway, because the car, it's got all these cameras all around, and so I'm running on that beta software now. Now, I just have to pay $100 a month, and you get access to the software. Now, if they bump the price, I'll probably turn it off, because you can turn it on and turn it off. So, if you know you're going to go on a road trip next month, well, next month you turn it on. You do your road trip, come back and forth, You got to buy 30 days at a time, and then when you get back to your home base, don't renew the software for the next month, and that's okay with them. You don't have to leave it on. But people that pay $8,000 or $10,000 up front, that seems like a nutty price for software that still isn't full self-driving yet. It's close, but Florida hasn't approved it for its use on its highways. I think there's a truck version of it that's usable on interstates only, not local streets. The governor has signed off on that for, I-95 kind of driving, the full self-driving trucks. The few of them that are on the road, they're permitted on highways, interstate highways. Anyway, in local news, Biden's doctor has pleaded the Fifth Amendment. He answered 14 questions in front of the Congressional Committee, and Biden's doctor dodges questions. He didn't answer any questions. Now, it's one thing when you're declaring, patient-client privilege, and another thing, because that's one reason why you wouldn't say anything, because, hey, But I think when you get under congressional subpoena, that supersedes the Hippocratic Oath, because now you're investigating the veracity of a doctor and his skills, and did he dispense the proper medical treatment to the president, and was he aware of the cognitive decline of Biden? It was very, I tell you, when you had the Biden-Trump debate, that was held, in like August of, the year of the election in 2024. Anyway, that was going to come on at like 9 o'clock at night, which is, of course, past his bedtime. Someone said he goes to bed at 7:30 at night. I mean, what the hell? Yeah, geez. Anyway, so the debate was going to be at 9 o'clock. Was at 9 o'clock at night. I had my vodka and soda ready, and I cooked fresh popcorn. I've got a commercial popcorn popper, and I popped up a couple of bowls of popcorn. I have old, tea tins. It's a tin box that's this, I'd say 7 inches square and about 9 inches tall, and it holds, like 4 cups of popcorn for each container. And so I make up the fresh popcorn, I put it in the steel tin, and put the lids on, had them out on the cocktail table. I said, Marilyn, I've got 3 tins of popcorn here, one for each of us, and an extra one in the middle here, in case you have a full-fledged popcorn when this hour and a half debate starts, and we're eating that popcorn as fast as we can. We're like in a movie theater, and it's all on this big frickin' screen. So, I mean, when you have an 85-inch screen, the size of the people on the screen are the size, your head is the size of their head. That's how big the screen is. So it's like a life-size image of the person in front of you. Anyway, so they're all ready, and Trump has his opening speech, and Biden has his opening speech, and then the first couple of questions went to Trump, and then the second set of questions went to Biden, and he was like, he was like scrambled eggs. I looked after the first 90 seconds that I looked over around. I said, "What the hell's going on here? This guy is out to lunch. What is happening here?" Oh boy! So Instacart was delivered yesterday. This is my. You're looking at the live view. Here's the NOAA. You can see what's going on with the ocean. Here, you want to see what's going on? Let's My Radar Pro. If you're interested in radar, which you should be, particularly if you live in any areas where they have these devastating rains coming through the middle of the country. I have the temperatures on here, and it's blocking everything. So let's turn off temperatures. Switch that off. There we go. Isn't that amazing how easy that is to... So you can see wind direction. We are on My Radar Pro. MY Radar Pro. PRO. And it gives you, it shows you the clouds. When you zoom in or out, it has to redo the radar plates. There you go. It gives you, I have it set so it gives you 2 hours worth of clouds as they're moving around. Here's how the clouds are moving around between Nassau and Cuba. A lot of lightning. Every one of those lightning, that is accurate. The radar, the satellites are very sensitive to the lightning. So they count the lightning, they display it in the proper place where it struck, in the when it hits the ground, or it could just flash inside the cloud, and it will show you. The lightning is very important in the creation of these slides that are presented by My Radar Pro. You can turn the lightning on or off. I have it on because it's very important in South Florida. It gives you an idea of the intensity of the storm when you got a lot of lightning. Now, I don't see anything that's coming our way, so I'm going to go back a little bit here and see what might be. I'm going to move. The blue dot is where we are. This is exactly where the little blue dot. This big blue dot, I'm going to depress it. I'm just going to touch my finger on here. There we go. Power outages. Okay, so when one of these cells came over, there's a very sensitive area here on this Hillsborough Beach area. Touch in the middle of that. Yeah. It's not many people are out because of it, but whenever these storms come up, that weak power signal that's being delivered to some residential customers, that's a guess, it pops up as an outage. Anyway, the little blue dot right between the words Boca and Raton is where I am. And that's about as hefty a zoom as I can do from here. You see some flashing in the screen, but it's not over Boca Raton. But you can see how fast these cells are moving. Now this is fast tracking 2 hours in about 10 seconds. With their fast moving storms, when they do come through, so you can see what has come through over the ocean. So I'm going to take a bigger view, put me up in the north eastern corner of the screen, and then back out. I'm keeping an eye on myself while I'm reverse pinching this, because I want to see what's coming. I have the mappings set up so that it's a square presentation on the screen rather than you don't see. I don't think you're going to see. Yeah, see, you can see the curvature of the Earth. I mean, can you imagine? There's enough satellites out there that is giving information or selling information to anyone that's interested in watching their videos. Anyway, so I'm trying to see if there's anything coming our way. And I've got a multi-thousand mile view here, probably a 1,500 mile view. Looks like there's some storms that are going up in the middle of the Gulf towards Houston. And there's no cyclonic motion, There's nothing over here coming from Africa. You can see right here, this is where all the our storms come from. They start right here. Haven't got all the information that's working anyway in there. So you keep an eye on that. Because we are getting into the strong part of this hurricane season. And we're supposed to have, up to 20 named storms this year, which is a big number. And we're getting all kinds of activity just here. My Radar Pro. That's what you want. I go to bed every morning just to get an idea what's going on. You don't have to be a meteorologist to understand it. Now there's some screens that you go through here. I have to be in full screen mode for the audience to see this. There you go. So in the very bottom here, there's a little thing in the middle of these icons on the bottom. Looks like a deck of cards. I press that and you get all the layers. I have the wind layer on, air quality is off, temperature is off, clouds are off. If I turn it on, so now you see cloud activity. I guess I'll leave that one on. It's easy to switch these on. Hurricane trackers, I have that on. So when you do get a disturbance out there and it's a named storm. It tracks it, gives it a name, always has a cone of, a probability cone. The fronts are on there. Photos are off. Aviation layers are off. I'll show you. Whoops. I don't want to screw with that. Wildfires, droughts, power outages, avalanche danger. Anyway. My radar broke. So you got to set those switches. That's about it. It'll run in the background. I'll come back to it. Messages I can turn off. 9 to 5 Mac will turn off. Speed test we did. Photos we'll get back to. YouTube, you saw the fires. We don't need to calculate. Just every once in a while you got to turn off some of these things or you run yourself out of memory. I got lots of memory, but I've got a good memory, I've been told. It's spotty from time to time. Let's see where Marilyn is at 10:32. Well, let's see where the car is. And the car is parked in her usual parking place, right there at Seacoast Bank. Right smack in the front. It was raining earlier in the day. It's 3 miles from our place, see right there? Not exactly a long drive. And most people are coming this way, so we're going east to west, which would be the least amount of traffic. Most people live out west, drive into the east where the firms are located. Most of them. Here's, let's see. You're looking at the, the Tesla app. There it is. We got 240 miles of range in the fuel tank. And a bunch of batteries. And a bunch of batteries, about 4,000 of them, about the size of my thumb, about that diameter, right down to about here. A 2170 cell, 21 inches in diameter, and 70 millimeters tall. That's what 2170 means. Charge stats. That's what I wanted to show you. So for the month, this is the last 30 days, the last 31 days. It keeps, you can see, we did a little road trip up to Titusville. That's why that one peak there, it's like on the 20th of last month. We went up to Titusville to see a launch that got canceled. But it was a nice drive back, up and back. So we charged the car on the road. Put about 30 kilowatts in the battery. Well, in the driveway. %90 home, 8% other, which is gray up there in that one big line, 2% supercharger, And other than that, everything was plugged in at home. And if we were buying gas, it would have cost us $264 last month with gas. But instead, we're electric, and it only would have cost us $80 in electricity. So we saved $184. That's the value of having to plug at home. And the fuel charge with Florida Power and Light is 14 cents a kilowatt. 14 cents per kilowatt. Yep. So that's the charge stats. Here's for the year. We've had the car. We got it in March. This is July, March, April, May, June, July. So, like almost a year and a half. We've used 3,997 kilowatts. That would have cost us $506 in electricity. And otherwise, it would have cost $1,800, round numbers. With gasoline, we saved $1,273. So notice in August, September, October, November, we were using a lot of supercharger. For some reason or other, we just couldn't seem to get into parking next to the column where the power is. And then in November, in late October, the good doctor sold his Model S and got a Genesis SUV. He said, "Jimmy, I'm back to gasoline." I said, "Well, good. Let's swap parking places, and then I can park where you were, because that way I have access to the plug, and you can park in my spot, which is a spectacular parking place." You will love that parking place. It's the best spot in the garage on the third level, and you can walk right out of there. You go up to the third level, and your apartment's right there. You won't have to walk all the way down the hallway. You're going to love my spot. And it's worth it for me to walk all the way down the hallway, because that way I get to my car is parked where he spent $2,000, and the building put a charging plug right on that column, which I'm plugged into right now, or not now, but every day. So starting in November, about the middle of the month, I started plugging in there. And notice November, December, there's almost no red. There's almost no supercharging ever since. Which that cost about 30 cents a kilowatt. But, what the heck? You gotta, let's see. Settings. Okay. So we'll keep it on month. So month to month, it's about $180 a month. In other words, the electric charge is averaging around $80 a month in electricity. And if we had a gas car, we're actually saving $180 a month and not buying gas. So our actual charge is about $80 a month, plugging in that plug. And that's included in our rent in the building. Which they're not giving that away, but anyway, we're not getting hammered with, we don't pay, they don't have that separately metered, so I'm not really, let's recharge this stuff here. Ozempic. I got a story about Ozempic. Now more and more people are using Ozempic, diabetic people. There it is. Comes in a box just like that. I've got a few of them. Wegovy is the same chemical. You see right here, semaglutide. S-C-M-A glutide. Semaglutide is the active ingredient in there. You give yourself a shot once a week. Well, I do it on Saturday. Anytime Saturday. Once a week. Yep. And it really controls your blood sugar. It's unbelievable. It is spectacular. I'm making spaghetti sauce today. I can smell it from here. That's what I'm having for lunch. I made up some magnificent thin spaghetti al dente. So, and when you have the thin spaghetti, and the spaghetti sauce, moves around through the thin spaghetti. It collects a lot of the sauce. So it's a very magnificent spaghetti experience. I haven't made it in a month, so I got, a full gallon of sauce I've made, and in about a half hour it'll be done. And done means that the entire pot, which has a cover on it right now, I've got about, in a 6-quart, which is the largest, just about the largest pot you can buy. I've got about 4 inches of room between the sauce and the top of the pot. So if I have that lid on there, I'm not worried about it boiling over. I don't want it boiling. You want to get it up so it's about 185 degrees. It doesn't have to get to, boiling is too hot. If you get it up to 185 degrees and hold it there for about 2 hours, that'll release, all the aromatics in the spices, and oregano and so forth that's in the spice mixture. There's about 8 or 10 spices. Italian seasoning. Yes, I use a magnificent array of seasonings that was created by Phil LaMarche. Rustic Italiano is what it's called. And it, you can put it in everything. But, in a 6-quart mixture of, it's 2 full tablespoons of the seasoning. Well, I bought two 3-pound containers of that, which is a large volume of that. And I separated out the the tomatoes, the dried tomatoes that are in there, because it takes up too much. You know, I don't need that much. So I have a container of the sun-dried tomatoes, and I have a container of all the rest of the seasoning, which some of those are in there. You know, I didn't sift out every single piece of the sun-dried tomatoes. I don't like as much as they are now putting in it. They seem to have increased the sun-dried, because it takes up a lot of volume, and that way they can, you know, so it's, anyway, so I just buy 2 of them, and then I have one container of sun-dried tomatoes, and I got another container of all the rest of the seasonings, which is 11 or 12 different seasonings. If you want to see what's going on with that, we can go to my website, 4161100.com. There you go. There's Jay Leno. How about that? And we're paging down here. Every one of these pictures, if you touch the picture, it opens up, you know, another series of, for example, if I see this one right here with the civic and public events, I touch that, and then these are all the season.
Here's what I found.
Whoops. Series stop. There we go. These are all the civic and public events. There's a lot of them, you know, a lot of St. Patrick's Day. Every year, the St. Patrick's Day parade. Here's the air and sea shows. You know, there's Rotary Club meetings, NASA shuttle missions. You know, here's the best of Boca and beyond. It was like a magazine presentation. All this painted art on bodies of young, attractive people. There's Maryland and the 24th annual art show, February 7th, 2010, 15 years ago. Yep. The Utsami Fair at the Morikari Museum, 2008. Here's some surfing. I took pictures of some surfing down here. Not exactly the Hawaiian waves, but, you know, press on that one. This is 2006 at 1 p.m. in Boca Raton. Yeah, I took a picture of this kid. Let's, we can go. I mean, that's a fairly serious wave for Boca Raton, let me tell you. I used to do that when I was a whippersnapper. Looks like a pretty short board with 2 skegs. You can see there on the bottom. He's got a cord on there which attaches to his ankle, so if the board gets loose, it doesn't bang someone else in it. But those are pretty serious waves for Boca Raton. Let me tell you, it's probably look at that. He's swinging around. He's pretty good. I used to do that. In similar waves that were in the North Shore of Long Island. There he gets dumped. He's on top of a wave, but it was a very stormy day. Winds were coming out of the west. Waves are propped up. Girls on the beach. Kids getting out there. People laying in the sun, sunning themselves. There you go. So I'm not going there for this purpose. I'm going there to show you my spaghetti sauce. So I'm hitting the back button up on the top. Back button. Look at this. Come down here. 26 million. That is the visitor counter. That is real, by the way. That's not a fixed number. Anytime someone clicks on here, that number would go to 91. 26,423,000 visitors. Yep. Here's my copyright thingy. Search engine. There's a little public resume of myself. Let's see, Jim Wilson. Principal licensed broker. There you go. Also takes pictures. And I'm going back up, so you know. This was my home page, right? It opens up with this polo shot, which is one of my favorite polo shots. So now I'm coming down. Every one of these pictures, I tell you, is a whole directory of pictures behind it. So if I touch there's my spaghetti one, cooking recipe. I'm going to press this. It's a 100-year-old recipe. Now here's Grandma's original chicken in a soup, in a pot. I did that. Let's click on that one just for the heck of it. Grandma's original chicken in a pot soup. So there, I'm cutting up the vegetables. I'm cleaning the carrots with a brush. Getting rid of all the... You see how whoops. We're looking at the carrots. And then after you clean them up, look how they look now. Well, that's how you want them before you start cutting them up. Because you don't want all this dirt and grit on there. So you brush them off. And see there, I've got all the vegetables prepared. I got the parsley and the celery. There's my onions. I got the minced garlic, the Old Bay seasoning, instant gourmet, and the big pot. So you get a whole chicken, and you clean them up real good, and you throw that whole, see there he is, you put that whole sucker in there. And he's got his feet and his butt hanging out. Yep, and now he's submerged fully. I put the carrots in first because they take the longest. See, I have a thermometer in there. You got to get that soup broth. Yeah, I use distilled water. Don't use the city water. And so you get the vegetable part pretty much underway. Here's the instant gourmet right underneath that image right there. See, rustic Italiano. I use that in the spaghetti sauce also. I'm in love with his seasonings. Alright, now I lost this thing up. Let's go back. There we go. There's the chicken. That's cooked. So you use a couple of big forks. After that, you have that chicken in there. You get it up to 100 and shrink that down. Get that up to 175 degrees. That's at 165 degrees. That's, 15 minutes later, that would be up to the temperature I want. This is a probe thermometer that's about that long. Has a nice display, which we could see on these pictures. So you lift out the chicken. It comes, you can peel it neatly off the bone, and then you slice it up like that. And that's makes for magnificent ingredients in your soup. So you don't have all the chicken bones in there. Pull the chicken bones out and toss it. So, but I take the chicken and see, I put it in these trays and I put the chicken soup in there like that to keep the white meat moist. And then you make up these containers. So you have the soup all spread out into the containers. And use good water. There's the containers. That's how you make chicken in a pot soup. The original recipe. Now we're going to go back, because the other recipe is my world famous spaghetti tomato sauce. Spaghetti sauce, whole peeled plum tomato based. Remember, it's a tomato sauce, so the cans of tomatoes you get are very important. It's a 130-year-old recipe, started by my grandmother in about 1880, passed on to my mother in 1935, and passed on to me in 1963. And now it's 2012, which is 13 years ago when I wrote this and put it on my internet. So this has been on the internet for 13 years. Because I said now 2012, that gives you an idea when this was done. Anyway. And this is basically my mother's recipe, which she got from her mother. 6 cans of whole peeled tomatoes. Now back in the day, it was, they had the whole peeled tomatoes that they picked. And they were probably round tomatoes, unless you were in Europe. But right now we're using Italian whole peeled tomatoes. Yeah, we can get them in a nice, 14-ounce can. Yes. Which is 35 ounces by weight, 14 ounces by volume. And I use this. See, here's 6 cans, I use 4 cans. So it's like 2/3 of this. I didn't use any crushed tomatoes. I used 4 cans. So this is 8 cans of tomatoes. I used 4 cans of the first one. I used none of the second, because I just cut up one of the cans a little more finely with scissors. 3 cups of fresh onions. I used actually 4, a little more. I used a little more, onion than what the recipe calls for here, because I had 3 big onions, so I diced them all up. Half cup of extra virgin olive oil, that's about right. 1/4 cup of finely chopped garlic, that's right. 1/4 cup Italian spaghetti seasoning, that's my Rustic Italiano by Instant Gourmet. Phil LaMarche, there he is, I give him credit. Phil LaMarche is a gentleman that lived over there in the Tampa area. He passed away, I'm sorry to say. A couple years ago, his wife called me, and I knew his phone number, so when his cell called my cell, and his phone number came up, and I heard a woman on the other end, I said, oh my God, please don't tell me any bad news about Phil. And she said, Phil passed away last night. And I know you spoke to him all the time. I did. I was on the phone with him every other day for hours. We talked about all kinds of things. Electronic things, and radio, and ham radio, and, and seasoning, and, he did all kinds of things. Marvelous gentleman. A little bit of sugar in there to cut the acidity of the tomato, and sugar gives you, some seasoning. It brightens up the seasoning, as does salt. 1/8 cup of high quality sea salt tends to really bring out the spices. We are full of salt water, our bodies are. And when we eat things that don't have salt in it, it tastes a little flat to our taste buds. So light salt seasoning matches up with the salinity required in your bloodstream. Your whole body is soaked in salt water, basically. 2 packages of fresh quality spicy sausage. Oh my God. 10-quart stock pot. Yep. Or you can use a slow cooker. And then here's step 8. This is the list of things you need. And then look at it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It tells you, I tell you exactly what to do and when to do it. And as you cook it, water boils, the steam escapes, so that means it's losing hydration. So don't be crazy if you have to add about 8 ounces of water when you're done cooking, because you lose about 8 ounces of water escaping as steam. So about 1 carafe of water I throw in there, so that the sauce is not too sticky. It's a tomato sauce. It's not a pizza sauce, which would be a thick kind of a sauce. So this is not only this. Look at this. This is I published this in August 30, 2010. Bon appetito, Chef Jimmy. So here's pictures of everything I'm talking about, and there's actually some videos in here of me stirring the onions and making the meatballs. And there's the final result. And right there, can you taste it? It is so good. Oh my God. Yes, sir. Whew. Well, that recipe has been published for 13 years. My son said, "Hey, you got something with the recipe?" I said, "I do. Look at this." I put it right on the big screen TV. Yes, sir, Bob. That is the world famous spaghetti sauce. Let me send it to everybody. Messages. Yeah. There it is. The Wilson Group. Let's just throw it out there to everybody. I just sent that to all my friends in the text message. And then let's go to text message and make sure it went. There it is. Remember this? And then all you have to do is touch it, and bingo, they get right there. Now this ought to be, the counter should be 91. Well, it's 94 because 3 other people have joined the site between the last time and me just clicking it up on. So 91, 92, 93. So there's 3 of us on this site right now because it's clicked up to 94. Can you imagine? 26 million. It keeps counting every time someone goes somewhere. Now they're not necessarily on this page. They can be, this. I'll go home. The site has 400,000 pictures. 400,000 in all these different categories. Let's see, that's 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, oh my God, 13, 14, 15, 16, oh my God, 16. That's 45, 46, 47 different pictures here. And if I click on unique events, let's touch that one. So now we have all these unique events. Now behind each one of these pictures is probably a whole bunch of pictures. So this is the 12th annual Concours d'Elegance in Boca Raton, and this is just a beautiful day. And we were sitting up on this little cliffy on the side of the driving range, and I took this picture right here. Which one did I use? It was one of these. Let's just click on this one. Now look at that panoramic view of the car. Shows what the trunks, the hood's up. It's a money shot. You got the Boca Raton Hotel in the background of these shots. And we were just sitting up under the trees watching everybody with their cars. Marilyn took that picture. See, I'm over here on the right. There's yours truly over there with the straw hat on and the green armband and a big camera hanging. Oh, I got a camera in my hand. Yeah. So she took pictures of me taking pictures. Yep. Look at this big old Woody. Yeah. There's all kinds of things you can buy. Look at this. Old restored gas pumps. Some of these cars are... There's Jimmy behind the guy making the cocktails. Got my straw hat on. I'm pointing at Marilyn because she's taking pictures of me long distance away. There's the Boca Hotel in the background. There's an Avante. I'm not a... I was taking pictures for everybody else. I'm not a big Cadillac. It's hard to miss that. Now here's some old, real old antique cars that are worth $2 million. These people really hand polish every screw and bolt and nut. Yeah. You got a ribbon on the front of that. He won first place in whatever year category that is. A car that's 125 years old. A Stutz. That's a different car. I don't think that's that car. That's this car. This guy's finishing up passing. He was coming up. Look at this. Everything is just beautiful. Yeah. Father and mother in the front, and the daughter in the back. I guess that's what that means. Jay Leno coming over. He's trying to buy the car. Look at him. He's looking at it. He's trying to make a deal. I want that car. And he knows what it is. There's Jay Leno marching around. Yeah, I got a couple of pictures of him. He's a car guy. So he was in there was like 4 of them judging these cars, and I think he was one of the judges because he knows a lot about cars. He's got a garage with 130 cars in it, an air-conditioned garage. We got a 2-car garage. He has a 140-car garage. Yeah, all that money he made on the Tonight Show. Millions. So he's a happy warrior. He was trying to make a deal with that guy. He wanted to buy that car. He got his name and number. They'll talk again. Yeah, he was really crowding around that guy. He wanted to buy that car. I don't blame him. So this was the. Let me go back. And this is just one event. 12th annual, and I captioned that photo with the software. Let's see, we'll go back. So that was just that one. We got. Here's the 8th annual. Let's click on that one. 8th annual Boca Raton Concours de Elegance. Sunday, February, whatever. And I got up close to this guy. There's a picture of the steering wheel of this car. And what do I have in the back? I've got the Boca Raton Hotel through the windshield. How about that for a money shot? Here's him coming back the other way. Look at some of these old steam cars. Yeah, look at this. Look at that for a hood ornament. They drive up and go around the circle and then they come back. So I get them coming and going. Twitter just left our streaming. We'll carry on without him. We've been going here 2 hours, so it's probably ready for me to sign off anyway. Look at that shot right there. Pretty busy, huh? Ooh, there's a wide-angle view of... These are all the people involved in the broadcast or of the Concours de Elegance. 17 years ago. Look at this thing. Oh my God. That's a steam engine. And then if you have the 275-hour tickets for this day, you get the opportunity to be on this other side of the white picket fence. With all the pretty people. Look at this. Look at this spoked wheel. Oh my God! Can you imagine repairing that tire? No one would have that rubber. You'd have to have that specially made. There these people are happily riding in their antique car with their prize money. Their ribbon. They go for the ribbon. She's texting. It's a 2008 cell phone. Look at this guy. Can you believe it? I've seen that car in almost every show. And they truck these cars down here inside a sealed tractor trailer. These are not on the open bed. There's a whole bunch of tractor trailers parked on the side of the road to the Boca Raton Hotel. So they drive them up ramps, push them up ramps, whatever it takes. But they got to get them up on these tractor trailers, like let's say a moving van. And then they take the car back to their air-conditioned garage, in Chicago, or, the Midwest or the Northeast or wherever they happen to live with their cars. Or that goes back to, some kind of a facility that is could be a public facility, an antique. Oh, there's Malin up in the corner of this picture. I recognize her because there's a yellow band around that lens. Yeah, she's in there. So I'm taking pictures one way, she's taking pictures another way. That's how you get all these pictures. I remember leaning in the window with these. That lady caught my eye. She's a pretty one. Yeah. Got an eye for the pretty girls. I've taken a million pictures, so I know what a pretty girl looks like. So does everybody else. But I'm the guy with the camera in the hand. I got my press pass. Look at all the carburetors. That's a 10-cylinder something. You can see the speedometer and the tachometer, gear shift lever, everything is polished. Every screw, nut, and bolt. There is no dust behind all these meters are operating and clean. They got to start the engine. They got to be able to. These cars have to roll. And these are the judges. Bunch of old farts. There's Jimmy with the black shirt. Yeah. A 190-pound version of Jimmy. I'm now 172 pounds. Lean and mean. Yeah. There you go. I love that. I love that picture. It's the driving range of the Boca Hotel golf course. But they clean it off of all golfers. They pick up all the golf balls. And now it's full of cars. That's where, and this is, pretty much every February. I have to find out who the promoters are in the next couple months so I can get passes. And then here's, where they're cooking up the fine meats and so forth. See, she's got a little plate of tenderloin. And this is the chops. The chef's the chops. And here's the lady that knows all about the Honda Jet. This is the first year it came out, I think. It was 2007 or 8. That's not a Honda Jet. That's another bigger one. 3-engine guy there. Looks like a 727. It's not. This just happened to be a attractive lady coming with a bottle of water in her hand. And the Boca Aviation, where they have the Friday evening, they have a cocktail thing at the Boca Aviation. It's a 3-day event that these people travel here for the Concours d'Elegance, which is the premier event on Saturday, starting at 10 in the morning. And Saturday night, so you have Friday night, which is this deal, and maybe it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's 3 days. And maybe Sunday's the car show, which is like the end. And they have a dinner. I think the dinner's after the car show. So maybe it's Friday, Saturday. And Sunday they pack up and get out of Dodge. But this is a aviation cocktail party. And they walk around. There's all kinds of cars inside the hangar. Let's see if we'll see that. It's not these kind of cars. It's like, let's see if we can. I have separate pictures of the air show, come to think of it. So we can go back here. There we go. So here's the 10th annual Boca Raton, the Hangar Party. Let's click on right there and you'll get an idea what the Hangar Party is all about. So I'm in the cockpit of a jet airplane. There it is. Oh, the screen lit up. Could this be the Honda jet? Looks like it is. You see Honda jet in the middle screen. So this is the cockpit of the Honda jet. Yeah. You have a captain and a co-pilot. You've got a central screen and two other screens. This is, this Garmin, the Garmin thing, portable things. They make watches, they make GPS handheld things for people that hike around. The Garmin company makes these amazing avionics equipment. And you can see Garmin on the top of that screen. You see Garmin on the top of that screen. This is a high quality digital image where you can actually see what's on these screens. Pretty cool, huh? So let's go back so we can see. So I was all over this Honda jet. They had a couple of policemen guarding it. So Jimmy couldn't. There's the engine. There's two engines, obviously. And it has a unique design. So I'm looking through the Honda jet and you can see all the people through the windshield as the party has started. It's looking right into the engine. I put my hand in there and you can spin the blades and that thing just keeps on. The light breeze was out there and the engine was just moving, because of the light wind that was hitting. The engines are attached to the wings or to the fuselage of the, let's see. You got 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is like a 6-passenger, 5 or 6 passenger. It looks like 4 passenger, and one sitting in the back. So you got 5 passengers and 2, the pilot and the co-pilot. So there's the hangar party, and a lot of people. And you can do a little expando, and you can see. That's a pretty wide-angle shot there. But you see, you have all these Jaguars, Rick Case, Maserati, and so they're showing off jets and Maseratis. You talk about the upscale, and the food that you can get here is just magnificent. It's the best little plates of foods you can get. There's Marilyn on the right, and one of her girlfriends that she met up. She's got her 2 fingers up there. Good old happy Marilyn. Here's 2 other ladies that are dressed in plaid. I thought that was an attractive picture right here. I don't know what the front of her looks like, but that shot right there with the leather jacket and the purse hanging over the shoulder, cocktail in hand, and sending a text message. That's the world of the rich and famous. Here's 2 ladies that were walking around during the show. I asked them to let me take a picture. Here's Washi. This guy in the straw hat on the right is interviewing. This lady is Miss Motor or something or other. And you see this guy that says car show. Look at this stupid camera he's got. My iPhone takes better pictures than this stupid gear that he's holding on to. which is like ancient stuff, but they can't get rid of it because they spent like $25,000 for that rig, and they can't throw it away because they got $25,000 spent. In the meantime, the iPhone technology today, of course, this was 2008. So the iPhones now are better than that equipment is then. That gives you an idea of the technology. Here's some of the sponsors. This looks like an Alfa Romeo. It is. Rick Case Maserati Alfa Romeo. Because he's got both brands. That's inside the cockpit of these magnificent cars. Here is the Boca Hotel, looks like logo on this shirt. So they have their delightful foods that they're preparing for the crowd. Here's the folks that were running the sound and music information that was being distributed through the hangar with their soundboard with looks like 20 channels. So you got two sound guys there. There's little cups, special plastic cups with the sushi and all these delightful treats. All these are like hand done by these chefs. Right there in front of you, they got the world's finest chefs. There's like all frozen in here. Look at this. You're like, wait, this is frozen oysters all inside this block of ice. I'm not an oyster guy, but for oyster people, that's Boca Raton mugs you can buy for $10 a piece. There's another pretty face. You can buy here are the pins that you put on your hats down there in the lower right. Sponsor a child, buy a pin. Boys and Girls Club, they were serving chicken and all kinds of different foods you can get. There's a Jay Leno lookalike, yeah. Nice try. Jay Leno standing next to the guy. They were looking around all over the place. In the background is two of Marilyn's girlfriends. There you go. Just happened to be in the shot by accident. There they are, together. Sorry to say, I forget who they are, but and there they are with their husbands. Concours d'Elegance, February 19th, 20, and 21. My computer just said it's 11:30. Yeah, this pretty lady over here, this blonde lady, was walking around with her, looks like her mother or her grandmother or something. There she is. How do you not take a picture of that one, right? There's another picture of her. Got a picture of him right through the windshield of someone's beautiful car. Anyway, I just took a couple of pictures of them. There's a money shot of a beautiful car, huh? Yes, sir. I was handing out my business cards like crazy, encouraging them to go look at my site. That's the only advertising I've ever done, is handing out my business cards at the events. Look at that, the spark plug wires. Look at those big old spark plugs. Look at those things. Those are huge antique spark plugs. Yeah. Paging through here pretty quickly. I know, it's mesmerizing. Anyway, I brought you here just so you could see my spaghetti sauce. But you can see there's lots and lots of stuff. There's Shelton. Let's go to Shelton for a minute. The stage and concerts. These are all things that we took pictures of. Oh my God, this is so good. Blake Shelton, 2007. This was before he was a real famous guy. He was a great guitar player, singer. Look at the shots I got of him. I sent him these shots. I said, hey, you want to use these on any of your CD-ROM covers? These are the best pictures you've ever had of yourself. I was right there below the stage. He was right in front of me. As you can tell, I am right in front of him. I'm not close enough to touch, but I'm not probably 10 feet away. I had a medium telephoto lens there. That's Indian Summer up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Blake Shelton concert. This is on a Sunday night. They paid him $30,000 to play one night. The place was stuffed. I mean, they had hundreds, They probably had 1,000 people standing up watching him. Standing room only, as they would say. These guys bring their own microphones. You see here, there's the two dots. These are Bluetooth microphones. They're connected to their own personal private devices that hook into the stadium. But these performers bring their own microphones, generally. And bring their own. See, but you gotta be, see, I'm getting the lights in the background. So instead of them being all burnt out, I've got the dynamic range on my digital camera set so that, and I was in the right positions so I could get shots of him with the studio lights above him. See, like that shot right there? That is not easy to get. You gotta be a thinking dude to get that shot. Or that shot right there. I mean, it's like stupid to have the yellow light and the red light, but to get that shot, you got to position yourself around. Now, the performer is not exactly cooperating, so you got to go through 1,000 shots. I mean, look at that. He's like done with that show. He's got his arms up. I got the studio lights up above him. Oh my God, what a deal! This shot right here. I mean, I was really moving around below the stage there. He's right smack in front of me. Now I moved to like wide angle on this one because he's done. This is good stuff. He would like to see this now. If I could figure out how to get to him, I'd send him a key to this album. He would surely like to make a couple of 20 by 20s or 24 by 24s. which you can do. See, like this picture right here? If you wanted to buy, hit buy. What do we want to buy? We want to buy paper. Let's just do paper prints. We want square, because that's a square image. See, look at that, 20 by 20. You can make a 30 by 30 for $167. And we want We want this special pearl finish. There you go. Add to cart. View cart. We just want one of those. $230. And then you go to... and you can click this right here and you get a digital copy included with your purchase for only $20 extra. Then you can make it's a license, you can print all you want. Anywhere you want. You don't have to buy prints, you can just buy the digital image. I think it'll be a little more expensive. I make very little money on something like this. I may make $5. It's like dirt cheap. I don't really, now you have to put your city, state, and everything to get, next for your shipping options, but it doesn't know what to do until you put an address in there. So that's why that lit up in the red. Anyway, so I'm gonna get out of checkout because we're not gonna buy anything. Whoop! Now we're back to the cozy fireplace. Remember the YouTube fireplace? That's where we started. Yep. So we're gonna say goodbye, and this is the full screen right here. Pretty good, huh? And it comes with sound. This is not mine. This is the cozy fireplace. Yeah. I just wanted to remind you of this YouTube fireplace. High definition. We want 2160 high def. Yeah, come on, baby. We want the ultra high definition. Now it's filling the screen. Now you tell me. See how pretty that is? You want to hear something? Let me turn down. Let me get to. Let me pause. Let's see if we can get this sound up on this. I can hear the crackling of the wood. Can you hear it? It's crazy what you can get these days. All right, sports fans. I want you to say goodnight because it's time to go. And remember, it's Thursday. You get lost in all this videography, It's really quite a thrill to present all this stuff to you. But you can go to my website, 416-1100.com. www.416-1100.com. And you can go right to that site. We're looking at all those pictures. You can spend a whole afternoon looking around at those pictures. And with the Apple system, you can throw the pictures right up on your big screen if you want. And you can dial through them on your iPad and they'll be up on your big screen, so you're Your wife and family friends can watch them if you feel like it. There's all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's not so much recipes. I just got 2 recipes there. Just stuff that I call the big chicken in a pot. That's really good. Got to make sure you rinse out that chicken good too. Rinse it out with some hot water. Get rid of all those, get a whole fresh chicken. Uncooked, of course, uncooked, raw. Almost like a capon. You want a big chicken. You can get a 6-pound chicken, that'd be perfect. So you get lots of white meat. I'm a dark meat guy, but for chicken soup, you like the little nice pieces of white meat. You slice the breast tangentially, as opposed to slicing big slices of turkey breast. This chicken meat, nice, real nice sharp knife. Get that chicken off the bone. It's not a bad idea to chill that chicken. It makes it carve a little better. It's a little harder to cut when it's hot. But let it cool down. You don't have to chill it. You can throw a towel on there and throw some ice on it if you want. Chill it down, just to firm up the meat. It cuts a little better. Comey and Brennan, the former FBI director and the former director of the CIA, are being investigated for unethical conduct. Basically lying to Congress. How about that? And this whole Russia thing was what Trump calls bullshit. And after all these investigations, they found that it was a bunch of baloney. There was no Russia anything. It was a fraudulent paid dossier created by the Clinton campaign. She paid $6 million for this baloney thing about Trump and Russia. It was all a bunch of, publicity lying. And they created this dossier, which wasn't a dossier. It was authored by somebody in London, and they paid him $6 million to write a bunch of stuff that was not true. And the CIA took it and catered it, in a sense, handed it over to Comey and the FBI, and they started this big investigation and this holy roll and publicity to try and ruin Trump's name, so when he was running against Hillary Clinton, that she would get an edge on him politically because Trump would look so bad. Well, it didn't work because Trump got elected. Now here it's, 6 years later, and now we're finally getting to Comey and, what do you call it? The head of the CIA and the head of the FBI, Comey and Brennan, and they're going to drag them. Well, actually, the DOJ is investigating them for a potential indictment, indictments separate for. Now, there's no indictments out yet, but I think I haven't heard Jonathan Turley's take on that, but he's a constitutional expert, teaches at George Washington University, and whenever he shows up on air, you listen to Jonathan Turley, because he's not a left-wing guy, he's not a right-wing guy, he's a down the mid, he's a non-partisan, astute faculty member extraordinaire at George Washington University, teaching young people how to be lawyers. I think that's, so you got all these college students and the parents are paying, $150,000 a year to send their kid to George Washington University, including room, board, and everything else you got to pay for with a college these days. Unbelievable. So anyway, we got our fireplace. How about that? I'm bringing that over. Whoops. What is this? It's July 10th, and we got my little fireplace in the background. We'll just close out with that little insignia right there. And we'll catch you tomorrow morning at about 9:05. Not weather permitting, the internet permitting. Right now, my signal has been pretty steady since I spent all last weekend with Xfinity on the phone. I got new modem, instead of this 8-year-old modem. I got all new TV boxes. I got everything wired up. Everything's working. New remote controls. I am brand spanking new with my $363 a month Xfinity TV bill. How about that? That's tax, title, and everything, but it's $363.28. It was $420. I got it down to $360 with better service. Ugh. But it was a hard day's work getting that. So, anyway, that's the end of the road for this broadcast. 2 hours and 43 minutes and 17 seconds. You have a great Thursday. We'll catch you tomorrow morning at 9:05. All right? So, be good, be safe. Have a great day. See you tomorrow.